Yes, guys, what's going on? Welcome to AdamMcKola TV. We are back for another Master Debaters, and I had to get the Master Debaters on with me, Jay and Joe. How you doing, lads?
Good, mate, yes.
Yeah, very good, very good.
Good in life, as always.
Not sulking, never sulking.
Macaulay Culkin over there.
Hey.
I had to get Jay on because he's been moaning about this on Twitter for most of the week, I think, which was good. And Joe, because Joe's just great at master debating, so, you know, why not get Joe along for the show? We've seen this week Sky Sports Premier League have been discussing who is the most influential, as Jay cracks open a can of whoop-ass, who is the most influential overseas player the Premier League has ever seen. Their options in their tweet were, drum roll, we all know there's going to be loads of United players here, don't we? Thierry Henry, Zola, Bergkamp, and De Bruyne.
Stop that.
That one's just a joke.
Stop. Maybe
he's influenced the way that physios treat knee injuries, but other than that,
do you know what I mean?
Or
did a 12-year-old write that one?
It was Jamie Redknapp who was discussing it. Now, where do we start here? Like, I feel like United are so underrated when it comes to Premier League era stuff. Like, they often talk about, oh, who's going in the Hall of Fame and who's this and who's that. Yeah. And they overlook the United players like we're not the greatest team the Premier League seen. Like, it's unreal.
I think there's an element of almost, they do the maths about it in terms of viewers. And they work out, like, most of our viewers aren't United fans and most of our viewers who aren't United fans actually hate United. So if we don't include United, we'll probably gain more viewers than we'll lose. I think I honestly do, because it doesn't make any sense to me. If you just mentioned it, Emma, you know, what is it? How many leagues has there been? 27, 28, and we've won 13 of them. So it stands to reason. And when we didn't win them, don't forget as well, we finished second about 7 times. Yeah. So we've always had the best players, basically. You know, throughout the Premier League era, up until, you know, even the last 5 years, you could argue for 4 of those years we had the best keeper. And in Pogba, maybe one of the, you know, definitely one of the best midfielders as well. So we've always had that, been thereabouts. I don't think they like to admit, I think they like to keep everyone happy by going, oh, we pick, you know, Alan Shearer as the best striker, or we pick, I don't know, Tim Sherwood as the best midfielder. No one's going to moan about that.
He's the best manager.
Yeah, do you know what I mean?
The thing is, people will moan about it, and loads of United fans will moan about it, and then they've got that hashtag.
I'm as guilty as anyone of
that. Hashtag engagement, innit?
It's almost like it's too obvious to just pick United, because the answer for almost any of these greatest Premier League ... is a United player or a United manager, because we've just been the best. I know, obviously, recent years we haven't been, but like you said, Jay, 13 titles. And the next nearest is what, 4? It's not. It isn't even a conversation ever, and yet they pretend like it is.
I do a Premier League 11 sometimes, and it's like pretty much just United players, and people look at me like, you're being biased, and I think I probably am a little bit biased, but am I though?
Yeah. How many players for other teams have won 3 Premier Leagues in a row? Because there's quite a few United players that have done that. And there's no one from any other team that's done that. Or the Champions League.
And the league at the same time.
Yeah, no one's done that
twice, and no other team have done that.
So as you can see, guys at home, these lot have already wound up. So we're going to talk about who the most influential foreign Premier League player is of all time. It's all a little bit Brexit on Sky Sports at the moment. Foreigners and British, but it's all right.
Yeah.
We're going to bring it over here as well. So
it worries. When they go with worst foreign player of all time, that's when you need to start worrying.
Oh yeah,
get him. Yeah.
Who's the least deserving foreigner of all time?
Yeah, exactly.
So we're going to look at this now. The lads don't have to pick a Man United player, but seeing as the sheer ignorance at Sky Sports of any Manchester United players, we probably will swerve that way, and there's a little bit of bias over here as well. So we're going to go through one. We've got a choice each. Hopefully no one takes the choice we've prepared for. And we can see who's got what and who thinks who is the most influential foreign player in Premier League history. Who went first last time? Do you remember?
I think it was me.
I think it was Jay, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Joe. Go on. Who is your choice?
The most influential and best foreign player that's ever played in the Premier League is Cristiano Ronaldo. not just was he, like I said, he had the greatest individual season of any Premier League player ever. He's the best player that's ever played in the Premier League from a technical standpoint. He's the most well-rounded forward that's ever played football. He redefined what a winger was. Breaking the record. He's the only winger to score more than 30 goals in the Premier League. People forget because he would come in off the left-hand side or the right-hand side, usually the left, so much. And then as he went on for Madrid and Juventus, ended up playing as a striker. He was a winger when he scored 31 Premier League goals for United. No one's ever done that before or since. He changed the way people took free kicks. Everyone was trying to work out how does he do it in terms of influence. His social media presence. I know who cares really, but when you think of what influences people, what influences society, you've got 150 million followers on Facebook. No one has influenced society more. No one has been better than Cristiano Ronaldo. Quite simply won the Ballon d'Or. The World Player of the Year. I think it was combined with the Ballon d'Or then, wasn't it? It's just the best there's been and the most influential there's been as far as I'm concerned.
Is the fact that his best years were away from the Premier League something that would go against him here? Because that seems to be the argument against Ronaldo.
Well,
or is that not fair? Because even though he didn't have his best years, he was still arguably better than anyone else.
Also, I do think that 07-08 season should be ranked amongst his top 3 or 4 in his career, because no one else has done that in the Premier League. 42 goals in a year. I know they weren't all in the league, but he was a Premier League player when he got those goals. 42 goals in a season. No one else has done that from the wing in the Premier League. I think that is as special as of an achievement. He also won the Champions League, won the Premier League that year as well. It's not like he got loads of goals, but they didn't win anything like Suarez. He won pretty much everything. We should have won the treble. And I think that I would rank that amongst maybe his top 1 or 2 seasons ever. I think obviously getting, 65 goals he got one year for Madrid. Obviously that's sensational, but it's a bit of a different thing there. No one gets goals like that in England. And I think 42 goals for a Premier League team is about as good a season as he's ever had.
What do you reckon about Ronnie, Jay?
I mean, listen, as always with these debates, we'll put the caveat in. I'm not saying I didn't love Ronaldo and he's not a great player, because you'd have to be absolutely insane to claim he was anything other than phenomenal for Manchester United. But it did take him a little while to find his feet, if we're being honest. I know we had that great debut against Bolton, but I'm sure, Mackie, your dad might have said it. I know some of my family may have done as well.
One trick pony.
Yeah.
My dad had that argument so many times.
Everyone said that for about 3 years.
I never. I was deluded.
The one thing is, I remember the free kick against Newcastle where he played it under the wall. Do you remember? And we beat him 6-0. And I remember when he was lining up to take that free kick, I remember saying to my mate sat next to me, I went, "Why the fuck is he still on free kick?" Because he'd missed about 30 on the trot. He'd missed loads, but that season he just everything clicks into place with him. Listen, there's no denying that. Yes, Ronaldo, in a sort of modern way, he was like he was part of that set, along with maybe Rooney and Messi, of sort of going beyond just football into social media and taking it to another level. The YouTube stuff and all the rest of it. And you mentioned like Instagram and Facebook and Twitter. That was something we've never seen on that scale before. So that is worth acknowledging. I get all that. And he did have a big influence. I just think that the thing with Ronaldo is as well, he was with us for 6 seasons, and his second 3 seasons were amazing. His first 3 seasons, he was finding his feet, and you can't just dismiss that. You can't just ignore the first 3 seasons. And he weren't terrible. There was glimpses.
But I think if you're looking at his lasting sort of influence, I think you not ignore that. Obviously, you take everything into account, but I think the lasting influence was formed around those final 3 seasons. And I think because of that, you maybe don't need to look at the early ones in terms of.
I think the influence of Ronnie as well is you kind of got to look at him as someone. I remember when he came out, and it was something that I loved. I bought a T-shirt with it on, and he came out and he goes, "I don't know, maybe it's just because I'm too good." And he said it with a stone cold face in an interview after a game. And I remember watching that, thinking, this geezer's belief and his self-belief and his drive and his just tunnel vision and I'm gonna be the best. I remember there was another interview where he was with Rio and they go, "Who's your best player in the world? Who's the best player ever?" And he goes, "Me." And it's like, the guy believed everything. And not only that,
Anderson says my name is Maradona.
And that's class, that. And like you read what Rio was saying about him as well, where he says, he brought a chef in and a personal trainer and all this, that, and the other into his. And it was like, I think a lot of footballers might have just copied that more recently, and a lot of people will look towards that kind of way towards influencing players. Arsene Wenger brought it in. Some people say as clubs, although time was changing around that time anyway. But Arsene Wenger speeded that kind of thing up. Did Cristiano do it with players?
Well, would you criticise him though? Sorry, it's been some, Joe. But would you criticise him? Because if we're going to look at him in his entirety, his social media thing, his footballing ability, what he did off the pitch, bringing his own team of physicians or whatever and dietitians, would you not be critical of him then towards his attitude in terms of the way he didn't want to beat United last season, all the stuff he was saying in the press, I'm a slave, all that nonsense that who knows, only God knows where I'll be. If we're going to look at him in his entirety, would you not look at that and go, that is maybe a little bit of a detriment to him because he did sort of throw his toys out of the pram a little bit towards the end, and Fergie had to basically beg him to stay for one last season. To give him
it could be a detriment, but I think he did stay for that extra season as well. Let's not forget, he did say, you know what, we've won that. I'll stay for one more year, and then you can let me go. There's a bit of back and forth there, and I think again, if we're looking at his legacy and everything, you would take that into account. I think you always have to take stuff like that into account. But when you're just looking at influence, like Adam was saying before, I haven't even got to the influence he had on the team and on sports as sports professionals generally. Like you said, this idea of bringing his own coaching, bringing his own food regimes, all these things, doing things differently. Also, let's not forget, he scored against Lyon, he scored against Roma in the quarterfinal, Arsenal in the semi-final, Chelsea in the final of the Champions League that season. He scored in all of those rounds of the Champions League.
Arsenal was in the 09, on the way to the 09 final.
Did he not score against Arsenal in the 08 season as well?
We didn't have Arsenal in the 08 season.
In the Champions League?
Not in the Champions League.
I think
that was an 09
he scored in the semi-final at least. Anyway, he scored in the Champions League semi-final.
He scored that world against Porto.
But I mean, it's still the Champions League semi-final that he scored in that got us to the final. He scored in massive games and influenced scored in the final in 08.
Missed the penalty in 08 semi-final.
The influence he had
and the final.
What are you on about?
Yeah, did he not score the goal in this final and not score a goal in the Champions League semi-final the year after?
Semi-final, and he missed the penalty in the final. What's the matter with
you? He scored a free kick in the final and 2 goals in the semi-final in the year after. He scored. What I mean is he scored in massive games and influenced the club generally. It wasn't just like, I'll get a few goals in the league. He influenced everything, and like I said, he changed what wingers are viewed as, and all of a sudden wingers can get 25, 30 league goals in a season. When in the Premier League, that just was unheard of. So I think when you look at him as an influence off the pitch is as big as anyone ever in terms of being a celebrity. Americans who've never heard of football know who Cristiano Ronaldo is. When you see players interviewed, you see it all the time. People being interviewed. Who do you want to emulate? Cristiano Ronaldo, because of his work ethic, because of the way he conducts himself.
And I gotta say as well, as a kid growing up around that time, like seeing the amount of people that suddenly started playing like Cristiano Ronaldo or like gimmicking little things, his free kicks, his step overs, and they'd say, I'm not trying to be Ronaldo, I'm just playing. It's like, bro, you're trying to be like Ronaldo. And it's like so many people used to try and do those things. It was kind of like we hadn't seen anything like that since Beckham in the Premier League.
Yeah, Beckham. I was going to say Beckham was the last one before that. That was like everyone was like pulling their tongue down on their boots all the way down for Beckham, and then like I said, Ronaldo taping up your socks. You got your people lining up with the ball, trying to practice.
Tape around your wrist as well.
Yeah. I used to go on the field behind my mum and dad's house and put footballs down and try and kick them like Ronaldo did free kicks.
On the valve.
For days kicking it on the valve. You like kicking it into the floor, trying to get the swerve, trying to get the movement. Like no other player got me to do that. I was like 12 years old, just booting the ball for hours, booting it, running after it, booting it the other way, running after it. Like, yeah, the influence he had was ridiculous. I know, obviously, he left and he wanted to go and all the stuff he said. You would maybe count that against him, but as a whole, I think he's right up there, isn't he?
Jay, who's your choice?
My choice. I mean, this might sound crackers after I had a big argument on Twitter saying Eric Cantona is the best player I've ever seen, but I'm going to go for Roy Keane because I think if you look at it in terms of influence and what he did and what he achieved at the club. When Roy Keane signed in 93, he was still relatively young. I think he was 20, 21. Big price tag. And yet he hit the ground running. We did the double that year. It didn't take him any time to find his feet. We won the double straight away. obviously, you know, if you look at the amount of titles we won when he was there as well, we won it in 94, 96, 97. He got injured in 98. We were flying and he got injured. And that's what cost us the league. We were 10 points ahead of Arsenal or 9 points ahead of Arsenal. Bookies paid out on us winning the league and they caught us when Keane got injured. That's how influential he was to that team. We had a fantastic team, but you took him out of it and Arsenal caught us and they ended up doing the double. And then he comes back in at the team and what happens? We do the treble. We retain the league. We win the league again. You know, you look at the way he wrote one thing with the likes of Ronaldo and other great players we've had. I don't necessarily think they always make other players try that bit harder or be a bit better. They can bring out the best in players because they're so good, but I don't think you're going to sort of try a little bit harder because when he's next to you or Scholes or whatever. But with Keane, you did. And every player that's ever played alongside him has said that. He made everyone go that little bit more. He was Sir Alex Ferguson on a football pitch. And he changed and influenced the game in ways you can't even imagine. Other teams and other clubs had to spend more money because of Roy Keane. They had to change the manager because of Roy Keane. You may have said that's crackers, but United was so dominant in the 90s, early 90s, mid-90s, late 90s, and Keane was such a big part of that teams started to spend more money. Teams started to get rid of the manager because he just couldn't keep up with us. And Roy Keane was a big part of that. He was. And if you look at the longevity as well, 13 years, is it? 13 and a half years at United, I think. And he won the title, what was it, 7 times? He just consistently did it, consistently kept going, consistently kept bringing it, raising the levels around him, keeping everyone on the toes. Everyone says that, you know, Keane wasn't just a captain. He didn't put the armband on, as we've seen with some captains like Carrick or maybe to a lesser degree Rooney or whoever. With Keane, you got a proper captain. It was a Brian Robson sort of type of player. It was in your ear, in your face, got everyone around him playing to their best, put the fear of God into the opposition. You know, Gary Neville comes back in the change room. Vieira's just had a go at me. 99 times out of 100, the player is just the captain of that team would go, right, well, that's tough shit. That's your problem. Keane's like, where is he?
Watch this.
I'm not having that. I'll tell Gary when he deserves a slap, not you. And yeah, the bottles it. He does. You see people getting in the way. It's Keane going after him, not the other way around. And we go on and win that game 4-2, I think, as well at Highbury.
Vieira scored after 2-3 minutes as well, didn't he?
That's what I mean.
And I remember thinking, no. This couldn't have started any worse.
That's what I mean. But it's like, that's what you got with Keane. You got that something extra. You got that leader, that mentality, that desire to win that sort of permeates throughout the entire team as well. And it makes Sir Alex Ferguson's job a lot easier when you've got a player like Roy Keane. And let's not forget as well, how many times have you heard we never replaced Roy Keane? I hear that almost. I still hear it now.
We haven't.
We never replaced Roy Keane. You know, and that's not just the player in the middle of the park, because in terms of talent-wise, you could argue that we've had players that in ability are as good as Roy Keane, but it's that leadership, it's that desire and motivation. We just haven't got it. It's that putting the fear of God into other teams. You know, midfielders knew they were in for a tough. He used to have Steven Gerrard in his pocket, Roy Keane. He did. Gerrard used to go missing when Gerrard was coming into the team, playing for Liverpool in those early games. Honestly, he hated playing against Roy Keane. You can understand why. And it was, you know, it was a shame about the way he left, but I don't think that was particularly his fault. And I think the reason he left, part of it was because of that desire. You know, we all know the infamous MUTV interview where he was kicking off and saying, you know, players should be doing better. But he was right. You know, you expect those levels at Manchester United. That's what Manchester United is about. And we've missed that since he left. And that's why, for me, he's the most influential player that we've ever had and the Premier League's ever seen.
Keno, it's fucking magic.
Yeah. On the pitch, there's probably never been anyone as influential as him, as certainly for United. It just the way, like I said, it made it feel like it was during that period where people came to United and we went to places and they thought they'd lost already. And like I said, he was a massive part of that, because even if we were losing or there was something needed to be done, like the Vieira thing, obviously is a famous thing, he would put it on himself to do that, and he influenced in terms of on the pitch more than anyone. Yeah, no one sort of just picked up a game and kind of made it their own like he did from a sort of physical and work rate standpoint and all that kind of thing. Yeah, it was just, amazing.
Yeah, I think obviously you look at everything that happened around that time, and I think when you look at Fergie and Keane, it was almost the perfect balance between the two of them. Fergie didn't need to kind of do something because Keane would do it if Fergie wasn't doing it, and I think that shows you how much of an influence he was on that team. Not only that, you see kind of the way he carried himself. And like you just mentioned, most teams had already lost. And that was because no matter what game it was, whether it was against Liverpool or Leicester or Lincoln or whoever we played against, not sure we did play against Lincoln with Keane, but We might have. No matter who it was against, he was always on it, always dead-eyed in the tunnel, always looking forward, never shaking hands with anybody. Let's get this game won. Then if you want to shake hands, you can do that. And I can remember Gary Neville copying things like that of Keane when he was the captain, and he wouldn't shake Phil Neville or Schmeichel's hand and things like that. And it's like that kind of influence rubbed off on the players around him, and that kind of how you carry yourself as a Manchester United player was rubbing off on those around him as well. And that was, and I think because of how influential he was, which is kind of going to weaken my argument a little bit, but because of how influential he was, people forget how good of a footballer he was. I see people disrespecting him these days, saying, "Oh, he was only good at tackle, like he was just a dirty tackler." Or, it's not Vinnie Jones, you know what I mean? He was absolutely the dog's bollocks, and he was one of, if not the best midfielder in Europe for so many seasons around that time when United were dominating. There was a point where he was discussing contracts with the club, and the kind of clubs that were coming after Roy Keane, there weren't these shit clubs and that. There weren't other clubs in England. They were the cream of the crop in Europe coming after him. And I think that showed you the level of player he was as well. Thankfully, we got him signed down to a new contract. It was a shame the way things end. But
do you know one thing as well I forgot to mention about Roy Keane? It shows that mentality. You're right about everything you just said. Massively underrated, especially in this day and age. And I think part of the problem is with Roy Keane is, if you go back to when he signed for us in 93, 94, like 93 to maybe 2000, and well, even till he left, a lot of those games, especially in the 90s, they're not televised, they are televised, but you only get the goals. Unless you were at the game, you didn't see it.
Or match of the day.
Yeah, match of the day. It wasn't like you could go and download it on the internet because that just didn't happen, or stream it on the internet. That didn't happen. So a lot of people didn't see the best of him. They didn't. They're just going off, what clips they've seen, or that tackle on Haaland where he nearly, can't even call it a tackle, where he tries to kill him and things like that. But, like the mentality thing, what makes me laugh. Do you remember when Diego Forlan went to take a penalty? And Diego Forlan hadn't scored for like 20 games.
Yeah, I remember that.
And we were 2-0 up in Europe, and Forlan goes to take it, and Roy Keane took the ball off him and give it to him.
Was it against Rangers?
I can't remember who it was against. I think it might have been. But he took the ball off him and gave it to Ruud van Nistelrooy and told Forlan to go away. And it was like, eventually Forlan did break his duck with a penalty, but it wasn't that one. But that was the thing. It was like, this game's not over yet. We're 2-0. If you miss this penalty, they can get back in the game. No, go. You know what I mean? And you can see Forlan was like devoed. But that was it. It was just that sort of almost craziness. It's almost psychotic.
Yeah.
It is, like, everyone, I'm sure you've all been watching The Last Dance.
I was about to say the same thing.
Yeah.
I haven't seen the last two.
Yeah, people sat there 20 years later, almost like broken men going, Michael Jordan did this to me in training. And it's like, it's that mentality of, we are going to win, and I don't care if I upset people. I don't care if we fall out and we're not bezies and we're not going for a drink afterwards. My only focus in this life is to make this team win. And I respect that. And that's what Keane was about. And, and it's that sort of desire that the fans have got. We love and care about United in that same way. And that's why I think the fans still love Roy Keane the way they do, because of that, because he had that desire and that mentality that you just don't see. You can't coach that or teach it. You're born with it, and he was born with it.
And that you see it all the time, but that clip where is it Ronaldo and Simeone are bent over doing up the socks when they're going down the thing against Inter, and he just goes like, walks straight past him, and they're like, as he goes, they're trying to get his head, aren't they? Trying to be a bit tactical and a bit kind of snotty, and he just walks straight past him like, if you're not going to shake my hand, you can fuck off.
And it's like, in terms of performance as well. Just sorry, I don't mean to go, but when as you mentioned, Maka, 99 in the Stade d'Alpi against Juventus, that should be sort of, every young player should watch that and tell me that Roy Keane wasn't an amazing footballer, because especially when he got booked later on and knew he wasn't going to be in the final, but he had Zidane and Davids in his pocket, man. It was just a masterclass. It was one of the best performances I've ever seen. And it's a shame because people watch the highlights. You need to see the full 90 minutes, honestly.
Yeah, it was unbelievable.
It's just everywhere,
He shouldn't have got booked. That weren't even a booking, man. Some of the tackles that had went before that booking.
Yeah, you're right.
Like, and then he gets booked. It's like
I always blame Blomqvist for that terrible ball to him.
and when you're looking at like influence as well, obviously on the pitch and stuff, but even now when you see him as like a pundit, all the other pundits are scared of him. And I know that's like, it's not the biggest, like,
they're all scared of him, but they all want to be his friend. Have you noticed?
Yeah, they all look at, when someone asks him a question and the answer might be nice about them or about their team, everyone values his opinion and value, because he's so sort of strict and stern, and it has to be right. And he set the standard, and that same strict and sternness is what made United the team they were. But because he's like that, everyone's like, if he says something nice, he must really mean it.
I think Keane's a little bit shrewd in that. whilst his on-TV persona is very much that, I think he plays on it a little bit. And I think
definitely.
I don't think you can be all stick, you know what I mean? You have to be carrot at some of the time as well. And I think he must have got that balance right. And like you compared him to Michael Jordan now, obviously different sports, different thing. But you see when Jordan let Dennis Rodman go away and come back, because he was performing, he didn't really give a shit what he was doing. And I kind of felt like he was the same. He had Ronaldo coming in the dressing room and fixing up his hair 2 minutes before he went onto the pitch, and David Beckham, fanning around with his. But he didn't care because these geezers were delivering on the pitch next to him. And as long as you did that, he respected you and he didn't care. Like Dwight York, you'd expect him to hate Dwight York. Like this prick, like look at him partying all the time. Look at him always smiling. What a cunt and all that. But he was better. He signed him for Sunderland. You know what I mean? Like he gets you if you work for him. He gets you. And I think that ultimately the geezer's just the done.
No, he is. And like you talk about his punditry. Do you remember in the World Cup, Ian Wright and everyone was laughing at him when we were getting excited? We were looking at it. I think we just beat Colombia. I say we, I mean England. Just beat Colombia. And it's like we'd already put in our route to the final. And we were like celebrating. Well, this is it. We can beat Sweden. We can beat Croatia. And Roy Keane was like, not having any of it. I know he's Irish, but he's like, you deluded. You've got to get to the final before you start talking about the final. Forget talking about the final until you're in it. And you were all laughing and the final. And he was right. We were like, oh, what happens? We get knocked out in the semis. And he's like, you're celebrating, but you shouldn't be. You should have been focused. That's him. That is him in a nutshell. And it's a shame that it didn't quite work out for him as a manager. But that's probably because he was just a lunatic who expected levels that mere mortals can't achieve.
Who's your pick then, Adam?
Laura, the king, Eric Cantona. You have to go with Eric Cantona. Look, even Jay said it himself. He kind of thought it was. And when you look at influence, I think not only on the pitch, off the pitch, but also when you look at Premier League football, Premier League era, what he probably did for Sky in the early days and how Manchester United winning all these leagues and being led by someone like Eric Cantona, I think what it done for the game and Premier League football in general, and Manchester United, I don't think you have Roy Keane and Cristiano Ronaldo doing what they're doing at the top level for Manchester United. Anyway, if you didn't have Eric Cantona coming through, helped us win our first title in 25, 26 years. I think every single year he was there, he won the league apart from the one he got suspended for kicking racism out of football. And you just look at that for influence. Like, he's not there, we don't win the league. He is there, we do win the league 5 times. He gets compared to Thierry Henry. How many titles did he have? 2 or 3? Not compared. Like, when we hear about who's the most influential, these are the arguments we hear against these 3 players that we're hearing now. Thierry Henry, absolutely amazing player. How many titles did he win now? And we're talking about influence. They might have had little bits better than him or had better seasons than him. But Eric Cantona led that team, dragged them to their first league title. And from there, they knew the formula. When he left, David Beckham, Ryan Giggs, Roy Keane, like all these players, they kind of had learned something from him and taken that on. And he probably gave them the confidence to yes, work hard, deliver every single game, but also you can have a little bit of flair about you. You can do a little bit like Roy Keane's probably like, keep it very simple, I'm going to play. But Eric Cantona did that, but he also added something special on it. There was an aura about him. There's a little bit of magic. And I think that makes you a bit different as well. I think that's probably what made Beckham the superstar he was and how he was and that. And that's influence. Those boys went on to win the treble. He probably still should have been a part of that team. He retired way too early. But if he doesn't go, we don't get Teddy Sheringham. We don't, that doesn't happen. So his influence was nuts on the whole team. And you only have to look at what he delivered. A couple of doubles, FA Cups, Premier Leagues, scoring in cup finals. The first cup final I can remember, it's not the first one when I was alive, but the first one I can remember is the 94 one. Scored in that one against Chelsea in a pissing down rain, 4-0. Scores in 96 against Liverpool. Most strikers send that into over.
What a goal that is.
Over and out of Wembley. And he kept it down.
And it's like it's gone through the actual meat and bone of about 4 people's legs, that ball. You watch it, and every time you see it, you think, this isn't going to go in. And it just knits its way through the most impossible section of tangles. Go on.
The little hop he does
Yeah.
set himself for it.
Yeah.
He just
Yeah.
a
As he
little hop,
steps
doesn't
back.
he? Yeah. And it's like, like
To
you
get his
say,
foot
like,
over the
most
ball
people
so he
are just
doesn't.
twisting the body, aren't they, and trying to throw a
Yeah.
foot at it and trying to do like an overhead or whatever.
Trying to get your head over it
Yeah.
and get your knee
And he's
over
like,
it.
he's seen that in slow motion.
Yeah.
He is. He's watching it and he's thinking, right, I'll just do a little step
But
back
he-
here and I'll thread it through there. And no one else is doing that. No one.
He had that kind of. There's loads of pictures of him like that where he's kind of arms out, one leg
he's
up, one leg out, and like
Almost like striding
air,
forward like that, like
Yeah.
a ballet dancer.
Yeah, he had that grace,
He
didn't
had
he?
a
But he was
sort
a
of
big,
balletic-
heavy fucker.
Great. Yeah.
You know, it's like I remember. I'm glad you mentioned that the '94 final. That was my first FA Cup final, like going to a final, and like to get 2 penalties and put them both in the same spot, as you said, like with I think it was Dennis Wise was in his ear when he trying to put him off, and he was just like he just stood there waiting for him to go, and he was like, I think he had a bet with him. I think he said 500 quid you miss or something. And he was like double or quits, and he just put it in the same spot. So you know what I mean, made himself a bit of extra. But there was the thing with Cantona as well, that when you talk about influence, the reason we love him, it's not just because he's a fantastic player. It taps into that thing of the likes that George Best have. That just aura. There's something about him. They're just different from everyone else. Do you know what I mean? There's a little bit of a crazy side to them. There's that flair. There's that thing they can do that we just can't even imagine doing. And he had it all, like you say, climbing into stands to twat some racist. I'm all about that. Do you know what I mean? Like, I know he got a ban, right? He got a ban, and that cost us the title that year. But I almost don't care. He did the right thing, and people might disagree, but it's like, because I grew up in that era, and I remember seeing racism on the terraces all the fucking time. Do you know what I mean? Like as a kid, and that, my dad didn't even take me to some games when I was young because he's like, I don't want you hearing what you might hear. And to see someone just say, you know what, enough is enough. I'm not having it. And it was like, and you know what he actually did? You talk about influence. It didn't change the way people thought about Eric Cantona. It changed the way people thought about racism. People were like, you know what, he's right. We've got to get a handle on this. And it isn't just about criticizing or being abusive towards black people. It's, racism has different forms as well. It opened a lot of people's eyes, and no one else has done that. And it's like, all those things just make him more than just a player. He's something else almost, Eric Cantona. He's a phenomenon. I'm just so grateful that we got him. I really am.
Yeah, and you look back now as well. Obviously, when at the time I was too young to appreciate most of it, I just had him as this kind of like godlike overlord through my childhood that was just always there. I had the wall shot on my wall, standing next to that, seeing how tall I was, up to his knee, up to his waist, up to his It's still got that on my wall at my mum and dad's house. But you think like now, United haven't won the league in 7 years. And if we won the league now, imagine the just explosion and the sheer sort of just swell of emotion that would go on with that. Imagine like tripling that time. And I think now we're so fortunate, especially for me and Adam, we don't remember times before United were good. And your first memory of the FA Cup was '94, so we were good from then on, weren't we? So the only times that we've seen where we weren't good are now, and it's hard to appreciate exactly what it would have been like waiting those years for someone to come along and to just galvanise the squad. Obviously, Ferguson was a big part of that. Keane was a part of it as well, as you mentioned, but Cantona was the main talisman of that team. And think of now, whoever the player that would sort of bring the current squad back to winning titles, the feeling and the influence they must have to do that. And then, like I said, that time was tripled between what it's been now. It's just, that the effect that he had to do that, and to do it in the way that he said as well, where he wasn't just get your head down, score loads of goals. He did it with a bit of flair. He did it with confidence. He had the confidence and the ability to be a creative, exciting player in a team that had so much pressure on him to come back from this, long absence from titles, and to still do it that way, and then to get the rewards and to be able to achieve what he did as well, is just unheard of. It's just amazing.
He won it with Leeds as well, didn't he?
That's the thing, that season before, you bang on about everything. I remember the emotions more from my dad and his mates, because they lived through the Scousers winning a lot. Do you know what I mean? So I remember when we actually won the league, a lot of them were like in tears, and I was like, these are hardened men. You know what I mean? I was like, right. Honestly, not thinking violence. But he went to Leeds at the end of the season before, and he was the catalyst for them, because we were I think we were ahead of him, and he gave him that little bit extra, and they won it. And then when we signed him, I was in shock as a kid. I was like, I can't believe, this has happened. I can't believe they sold him to us. But you didn't appreciate how good he was until you saw him week in, week out in your own club. and he was just ridiculous. He was, and he was like a different style of player as well. The Premier League. This isn't the era of the Premier League where you had, loads of foreign players and different backgrounds and sort of different styles.
Yeah. The free foreigner rule as well at that time.
Yeah, exactly. Europe, you had the free foreigner rule. It made front pages when Chelsea fielded an 11 of foreigners. Like, people couldn't believe it. You know what I mean? The world's gone. Oh, the game's gone crazy. And all that
It's finished.
Yeah, it's finished. It's over. All these foreigners. We'll be eating spaghetti next. And it was just so ridiculous. And he was like one of those players that you thought, like, bloody hell, what's going on here? Like, this is amazing. Like, watching this sort of style and what he's got about him, that swagger. It was different. And then you sort of, with the Champions League kicking in, you began to see more of that when you watch those types of games. So, yeah, in terms of influence, it's so many different layers to it. You could talk about we've touched on so many different things, but he had it all, really, did he, Eric? He really did. And it's like, you're sort of waiting for us to sign the Roy Keane. You're never waiting us to sign the next Eric Cantona, because there will never be another Eric Cantona. No. He's more than a footballer, isn't he, really?
Yeah. There'll never be another Roy Keane either. But
no, that's a good point. Very true.
Right then, we're down to the 30-second round. We have been rambling on for a little bit. It's a good chat, though, this, isn't it? Like, we're talking about the most influential foreign Premier League player, and we haven't spoken about anyone apart from United. And we're not even just being biased. Right. Yeah. Joe, you went first this time, didn't you?
Jay, you go first, because I need to plug my laptop in.
All right. Jay's going to go first. Joe, get your stopwatch ready for me as well.
Okay, we'll do.
So, Jay, you got 30 seconds. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Why is Roy Keane the most influential foreign Premier League player ever? Go.
When you look at when we got Roy Keane, we were in for him, Arsenal, we were in for him, Blackburn, we were in for him. We had to break the transfer record to get him. He came into the Manchester United side. Unlike other players where it's taken a little while, he hit the ground running straight away. We won the double in his first season. We kept winning trophies under Roy Keane. The only time we missed out was when he got injured in '98. He got injured. We don't win it. Arsenal win a double. He comes back. We win the treble. And you look at how he sort of raised the game of everyone around him. Everyone performed a little bit better for Manchester United when Roy Keane was there. He was a captain that led also by example. He wasn't just someone who went around shouting. You look at the standard of his performances. The best
done. You all right there, Jay?
Yeah, mate. I hate these 30 seconds one because me, like that's like asking a spicer not to take spice. It's like I can never get under that 30 seconds. Wow. Sorry.
Right. Joe, you ready, bro?
Yep.
With your notes.
A little teacher's pet here, eh?
Right. What? Joe, why is Cristiano Ronaldo the most influential foreign footballer to ever play in the Premier League? Go.
He's most influential. He's the best as well. He's changed the way that wingers are viewed in football. He's got the most, in terms of influence on the pitch. He scored in every round of the Champions League throughout his time at United. He scored 31 goals in 34 appearances in the Premier League. He won the Ballon d'Or. He's gone on to become one of, if not the best footballer of all time. His influence off the pitch, social media, the way people train, the way people stand when they're taking free kicks across the world has changed. He influences way more than just football.
Shut up, Joe.
He's the best.
How many goals in how many games was it, Joe?
31 in 34 in the league, 42 in all competitions.
Liar.
How many goals did Roy Keane score?
How many goals did Roy Keane score?
I'm joking. I'm joking.
87 in one season, that.
That's amazing, that.
You know what I think, yeah? You know how people like kind of say, oh, he's shit nowadays, and you think, are you really talking about the... in 20 years, kids on Twitter are going to be saying Messi and Ronaldo weren't all that, right?
Yeah.
Someone will have that hot take. The thread. Why Messi shit?
Why Ronaldo shit?
Yeah, and you're going to be like...
They're probably already out there, to be honest.
Yeah, this is it, man. It's like, come on, really.
Right, Joe, you got your stopwatch ready?
Yeah, I got it.
Tell me when to start then.
You ready?
Yeah.
3, 2, 1, go.
When the seagulls follow the trawler, it's because they think sardines will be thrown into the sea. Joe.
17 seconds.
I don't need 30 seconds.
I like what he's done there. That's very good.
Cheeky.
Very
bit
good.
Cheeky, that one, wasn't it?
It's a bit cheeky. I reckon that's made me win.
I
don't know about you.
Nah, not really. Do you pick a winner on these? Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't, do you?
I don't like picking a winner, not especially when I'm not involved. When I'm involved, I don't mind when I am.
It's one of those, isn't it? I mean, I think this debate as well. You know, I don't want to sound like that parent with the kid who's crap at football, but there are, you know, everyone's a winner.
Football's the winner.
Well,
you were the winners, weren't we? Because
you know what I mean, it's like it's different. You know, you've all made cases, different arguments or whatever, but you know, I wouldn't be. I certainly wouldn't be unhappy if I lost this debate. That's all.
It's true, and I think we forget how lucky we are as United fans. Like, I don't know if you've seen that thread I started on Twitter, like just with pictures from old games, and it's like we forget how like I didn't realize at that time when we've been watching it, we were going to see greatness, and like we've seen it, and like who knows what we're seeing now? Like we don't know when it's going to happen, but at one point we're going to be witnessing greatness, and it's just going to fall into place in front of us.
I do feel as well, you know, like sometimes. I mean, I'm guilty of it as anyone. You can be a bit harsh on some modern fans, United fans, when they're hyping a player and they get excited. But you think, you know, we've been spoiled. You know, like if you're waxing lyrical about a modern day United player and you're like 13, 14, you know, and you're right, they are good players. Say you love Paul Pogba, he's a great player, he's a fantastic player. But you also haven't seen Roy Keane. You don't know what I'm on about. You haven't seen Ronaldo at United. So you don't know what that's like. So you know what I mean? It's like we can go, oh, he's not, you know, Martial's not as good as Andy Cole, whatever. That's not the point. So I mean, it's like these are great players, but we're just spoiled because we've seen some of the best ever footballers playing for United.
And some kids that are like 18 now have probably, you know, some of them were very young when United last won the league. Some of them are like, so it's like we're very like. I could never see us lift another trophy, and I'm done. I'm fine. I'm fine with what I've seen. But like some people are like they haven't seen much of that. They know we are successful. They know we're supposed to be successful, but we haven't been. Well, you can say we haven't been. We've won 3 trophies over the last 6 years. Some clubs would die for that success.
Yeah, we haven't been successful. We haven't done this and that, but we've had moments, haven't we? We've had like, you know, like you say, the semi-final against Everton, Stockholm. You know, the even recently when we've been pretty poor, we've beaten City at the Etihad.
Yeah, Paris
you know what I mean?
as well.
Paris, yeah, we've had those moments where it's like this is amazing. Where some clubs, when they're struggling, you know, they're fighting relegation and they're out of all the cups all the time, and they never beat any of the rivals. So yeah, we are spoiled, but you know that's part of the reason we're spoiled is because Roy Keane and his influence.
And Eric Cantona's influence.
Look at it at the end, and Ronaldo's
Eric Cantona influenced Roy Keane, who in turn influenced Cristiano Ronaldo. So,
now you're getting very clever. Now you're getting like I
don't know what that means. Does that mean they came first? Anyway, thank you for tuning in, guys. Make sure you're following Joe Smith 93 on Twitter and Instagram and Grindr, and Jay at RFFH on Twitter. Subscribe to Stretford Paddock, Full-Time Devils, AdamMcKola TV. Like, comment, share, and subscribe. I'm doing a debate with Paddock today on Angel Gomez or something, so go check that out as well. Thank you for watching. Any final words, guys?
No, I've enjoyed that. I think, you know, you look at the arguments everyone made a real good one. I think it's, you know, you've been unlucky not to win it.
Vote in the poll up there somewhere. Wait, Joe, do my arms that way, and then it can be Jay's finger. Go on. Jay's fucked it.
No, is it that? Is it that? That's what I've seen it. What you guys are doing.
Fuck it. Yeah.